This screencast is going to talk about parallelograms, characteristics of parallelograms, and then how to find the area and perimeter of parallelograms. So let's start off with some characteristics of parallelograms. And there are a bunch of different characteristics that we have listed on the screen. You can go ahead and read over those and then make sure that you're recording this on your graphic organizer. So a parallelogram has four sides. It has two sets of parallel sides, so opposite sides are parallel, meaning that opposite angles are equal, as well as opposite sides being equal. A parallelogram could be a square, rectangle, or rhombus. The sum of all four angles is going to be 360 degrees, and kind of going back to a vocabulary word that we've talked about before, supplementary angles. So if you add angle A and B together, that would equal 180 degrees, so they are supplementary angles. The first part of this video is going to look at finding the perimeter of a parallelogram. So in order to find the perimeter of a parallelogram, you would add up all the sides, like we've talked about before with finding the perimeter of any shape. So make sure that you're actually looking at the outside measurements. So we're going to take a look at a few examples and how you would calculate the perimeter and not use the height to find the perimeter. If you take a look at this first example, we are just finding the perimeter for this parallelogram. So I'm going to go ahead and circle the outside measurements. Notice, like our characteristic said, the opposite sides are equal and the opposite sides are parallel. So we're going to go ahead and find the perimeter by adding 10 plus 10 plus 5 plus 5. When I go ahead and find the sum of all of that, I would get 30. And because there's no unit, I would just put units behind that. So my final answer would be 30 units. Notice that I'm not using the 8 because the 8 is the height of the shape and it's inside. It's not part of the outside of the shape. So let's go ahead and take a look at another example. Once again, we have our measurements on the outside. So because we know opposite sides are equal, this side would also be 7 and this side would be 15. So in order to find our perimeter, we would do 15 plus 15 plus 7 plus 7. Or, as some of you already know, you could do 2 times 15 plus 2 times 7, and that would also get you to the same perimeter. So when I add all of those numbers together, I would get 44 centimeters. Last example for perimeter, once again I have my side measures, so I'm going to go ahead and fill in my opposite sides, just so it makes it a little bit easier to calculate the perimeter. Notice I'm still using the outside measures, so 9 plus 9, plus 4, plus 4, 9 plus 9 is 18, 4 plus 4 is 8, 18 plus 8 would get me to 26 centimeters. So once again, in order to find the perimeter of a parallelogram, you're adding up the outside measures. Now we're going to take a look at area. In order to find the area, it's basically the same formula as working with a rectangle. It's base times height, except with rectangles we say length times width, which is the exact same thing. Notice that when you're finding the height of a parallelogram, it makes that right angle with the base, similar to what we talked about with our triangles. So that's really important to keep in mind. So let's take a look at our first example. Our base is going to be 10 units long, and our height is going to be 8 units tall, because this makes a right angle with my base. So then all I do is 10 times 8, which is 80. Because I don't know the units, it would be 80 units squared. So go ahead and try this example on your own, pause the video, and solve it, and then hit play once you think you have an answer. So I went ahead and used the 10 and the 4. 10 would be my base, 4 would be my height. 10 times 4 is 40, 40 feet squared, because our units are always squared with area. One final example, so once again, go ahead and try this one on your own. When you think you have an answer, hit play, and I'll show you how I got my answer. And for this parallelogram, you should have gotten an area of 75 centimeters squared. So to review, to find the perimeter of a parallelogram, you're going to add up all the sides, all four sides, the outside of the shape, and in order to find the area, you're going to multiply base times height. Once again, remember that the base and the height create that right angle. Alright, at the bottom of your paper you have two example questions that look like this. So go ahead and pause this video and on your own find the area and perimeter of each parallelogram, and then go ahead and hit play, and I'll kind of walk you through the steps or show you the correct answers so you can check your answers. Alright, so you can go ahead and check your answers. So my first area for the first parallelogram was 90 inches squared, perimeter was 44 inches, and then for the second example, notice that I circled the right angle and this time the height is on the outside. So once again, the height and the base just have to make a right angle. So I multiplied 8 times 4 and got 32 centimeters squared. And then for perimeter, I added up 8 plus 8 plus 6 plus 6 because those are the outside measures of the shape, and I got 28 centimeters. So make sure that you have this recorded on your graphic organizer, and that's how you find area and perimeter of a parallelogram.